Welcome, All Saints parishioners. This is Dan, the office manager, here with Tracy. Past week has been a bit wild, and many of you have presented us with questions about the recent announcement about All Saints not having weekend masses starting mid-July. Tracy gave some thought to as many of the more common questions as she could, and is here with me to address a few of those with us to the best of her ability. There are lots of questions that we simply don't have answers to yet, honestly, but let's dive into a few of these and give it to you as straight as we can. Hi, Tracy.
Well, hello, Dan.
Beautiful April day. It's not buggy. It's not humid. Today was a great day to give some careful thought to things. So, we're going to get started with this. What specific factors went into the decision to not allow All Saints to have a weekend mass? Is there a spreadsheet or a resource that was used to compare parishes? And if so, can that be made available for the entire congregation to view?
Yes, Dan, it can. The statistics that were used in the decision-making process that created the A, B, and C maps that we viewed in the fall are still available on the Journey in Faith website. Additionally, as I previously announced, all parishes were requested to report weekend mass counts starting February 28th. While those are not on the Journey in Faith website, I can tell you that looking at the attendance counts for All Saints from the fall/winter of 2025 to attendance in 2026, our mass counts remain stagnant or even decreased ever so slightly.
So who made this final decision? If it was a group, who were the people that made up that group?
Great question. The final decision on the pastorates was made by our Archbishop Thomas Sincula. Along the way, just like he told us he would, the Archbishop sought input from various groups, including the parishioners of each parish, as we had opportunities this fall to provide information and feedback with the Journey in Faith process. If you want to go to the Journey in Faith website, the different advisory bodies can be found on that by accessing the option of advisory bodies under the Planning Process tab.
Why did every other parish in the cities of Cedar Rapids and Marion, other than IC, maintain at least one weekend mass other than All Saints? What was so disqualifying for All Saints?
It's human nature and understandable that we focus on the parishes located closest to us. However, I encourage everyone to look at the Cedar Rapids Pastorate map, which our staff put together, more specifically Dan, thank you, and can be found on the poster boards at the entrances of All Saints. When we take a look at that, we see that every single one of the four areas includes at least one larger parish that was designated to not have weekend masses in the final plan. In the north area, it is St. Mary's in Vinton. In the west area, it is St. John the 23rd in Cedar Rapids. In the central area, it is Immaculate Conception of Cedar Rapids. And in the east area, it is All Saints of Cedar Rapids.
So are there any other parishes in the Arch that, much like Cedar Rapids, that have vibrant parish schools but have now been shut out of even a single weekend mass?
We know here, especially in the Cedar Rapids area, that schools are a wonderful complement to our parishes. But demographics and statistical information for the schools was not a part of the Journey in Faith resources provided.
Most recent update says this transition is being done to ensure everyone has access to weekend masses no matter where they live, yet fewer masses will be offered at greater distances for many, limiting easier access. These don't seem to align. This is even more confusing in our situation when All Saints is now paired with two churches that are further away than two others, like St. Matt's and St. Wenceslaus. They each retained masses.
Once again, if we take a look at the maps, one of the things that we overlook and needs to be realized is that with St. Matthew and St. Wenceslaus, they're both designated as sites for non-English speaking masses. Yes, St. Wenceslaus has one weekend mass, but it is the only location in the entire Archdiocese of Dubuque where mass is allowed to be in Latin. And that is the only Mass that will be celebrated in that location. No English-speaking Masses may be celebrated there. St. Matthew Parish is the only church in the Cedar Rapids area pastorates where Masses will be celebrated in Spanish and in Vietnamese. There will be one Spanish Mass every weekend, and Mass in Vietnamese will be celebrated twice per month. A non-numeric factor that was a part of the decision-making process was the different cultures that are present within the areas. The Cedar Rapids downtown churches have a similar culture that was easier to fit together with St. Matthew. And while there will always be a uniqueness or slight outlier to any region, by and large, the cultures of the churches brought together in the North, West, and East pastorates had more similarities than differences.
So while the people that I have spoken to understand the real challenges with fewer priests, how would taking one weekend Mass from another parish that has multiple, like 3 Masses, allocating it to All Saints be detrimental to the overall mission? Like, let another parish have multiple Masses lose one, and thereby we share the pain while retaining 2 weekend Masses. I understand it could mean requiring a priest to drive to a different church, 10 or 15 minutes away maybe, but that would be less time than it takes to drive from one of the other parishes in the pastorate to another that is planned to retain weekend Mass. Travel considerations are obviously different in rural areas than in a city like Cedar Rapids.
Part of the plan to form pastorates with designated weekend sites is to be better stewards of our facilities and financial resources. As a homeowner or even as a renter, we know that it is more efficient to keep the heating, cooling, lights, and maintenance consistent at one site than it is to operate several sites. Just like many places in the United States, we have been and will continue to experience a shortage of priests to preach, teach, and guide the faithful. While we might expect our priests can be superheroes, they are also very human and need time for prayer, study, camaraderie, and relaxation in order to serve their flock well.
I understand the pastorate will have the freedom to decide Mass schedules. Will this include the freedom to decide to offer a weekend Mass at All Saints periodically, or to ultimately change the parish location of one or more of the weekend Masses allocated to the pastorate? If not, why not? And shouldn't the pastor be given the power to make decisions affecting its new congregation?
The freedom to decide Mass schedules will be realized within certain boundaries. All Saints is a church that is not designated for weekend Mass may have one or more daily Masses, with at least one of those being for the students of All Saints School. All Saints may have a Mass on its feast day, on Christmas or Easter, in addition to weddings and funerals. The interim Mass schedule that will be set into place to start after July 14th may be viewed for adjustment in terms of Mass times and quantity of weekend Masses. It will not be viewed for adjustment in terms of which churches will have weekend Masses and which don't. I think especially here in the United States, we often view and think that a parish should be a democracy, and it is not and never has been. Input from various leadership groups and standing committees is always sought, but ultimately it is the decision of the pastor, who is then additionally obedient to the archbishop.
This one gets kind of personal. So, what happens to the choir? We have one of the best choirs. We've got the best choir director. We have the best music director in the area. Are they just done? Is that as simple as that?
That's a really good question. And this kind of falls into one of those categories where we have a little bit of information, but there are so many things that have to be decided yet. So one of the next goals for the pastorate after the interim Mass schedules are set and publicized is to bring together all of the parish standing committees like social justice, liturgy, parish life, faith formation, stewardship, and buildings and grounds. so that they can begin to serve both the Pastorate Pastoral Commission and the Pastorate Finance Commission at a pastorate level rather than at the individual parish level. The Pastorate Liturgy Committee will be working towards plans that will include music ministry, but nothing has been talked about or decided yet.
So based on that, I'm pretty sure I know where this is going to go, but what staff, if any, will be retained at All Saints?
A very similar answer. That'll also need to be decided as we move forward. There are many factors that will influence the decision, including the staff at other parishes and what the All Saints Parish campus is ultimately used for or not used for.
So is the pastorate decision appealable or subject to review or tweaking before July?
That's a really great question, and I know that many of you are hooked into Facebook or have seen the news. There are many different groups that are coming together on a larger scale asking that same question. The answer is pretty simple, while maybe not one you may want to hear. You may write a letter to the Archbishop if you choose, but at this stage, the pastorates will be moving forward toward implementation in July. It is not open to appeal or subject to any further review or tweaking.
I'm sure you have some sense for the real pain and confusion this transition is causing, but respectfully, I think much of that may be due to the lack of clear explanation as to the specifics as to how and why All Saints seems to have gotten the shortest stick in this transition.
You're right. I do have a very real sense and idea of the pain and confusion this transition is causing. Knowing at the same time that I don't walk in your shoes. There are many that have been here since birth and their families even beyond that or before that, and I don't have that history. But I hope that while my answers to these questions may not have brought us any closer to accepting the pastorate decision, I do hope that I have at least provided some answers in as far as I know the answer. I would hope that while we know and acknowledge our own pain in the situation, we can also open our eyes to the same pain and confusion happening throughout the Archdiocese of Dubuque. Many parish churches, many of whom are the only game in town, so to speak, are just as angry and confused as All Saints, if not more so.
To many, this is a big one because I heard this a little bit after Easter Sunday when I was here was it Easter Sunday?
It was.
The day of the announcement, I came in, and that was an Easter Sunday. I came in, and there were people that were very concerned, and this was the most popular concern that I heard in those 2 days. To many, it seems as if this may have been in the works a year ago or more when we lost a pastoral priest. That leads to suspicion that All Saints never actually had a real shot at retaining a weekend mass.
While that could be taken very personally, I'm choosing not to because I'm stepping in your shoes and I can see that too. I can fully see where the optics would lead you to that conclusion. But let me assure you that when I was asked to serve All Saints in this capacity, and I was asked to do this in February of 2025, way before it was put into effect. It was never, ever mentioned that it would be for 1 year only, as the conclusion would be that the parish would not have weekend masses in the future. And additionally, I have tried to respect and keep you in my heart, and I have never been less than truthful and honest with our parish community, even when it's something none of us wanted to hear or that I knew would be sad or hurtful news.
I know that there's been a lot of discernment and prayer, but I really think a more candid and specific explanation of exactly how and why the decision was made to eliminate weekend worship at All Saints is warranted. Further, this could help folks better understand what has happened and perhaps become more accepting of the decisions that were made.
And that I fully understand too. And I know that my continually asking everyone for patience will only take us so far. But I do have to remind everyone that we're just at the very beginning of this. In fact, the pastors of all the pastorates have just met for the first time while we're recording this. Father Ken Glazer is going to be our pastor for the pastorate. And I have talked to him already a couple of times. And I know one of his goals or his intentions is to come to all the different churches that make up this New East pastorate and introduce himself, as well as talk to the parishioners. And while I'm hopeful that this may not ease the pain, I do truly hope that it will provide the parish with confidence that Father Ken is going to be a great leader for our pastorate.
So I know that we all kind of resist change. That's just inevitable. And we're about to approach one of the biggest changes in our history here. There is some optimism that we can apply. There's some positivity and there's hope. So if I know that a lot of these answers weren't necessarily the answers you wanted to hear, they're not necessarily 100%. We're doing the best we can. And if you do have any other questions or if you want to expand on any thoughts that we've provided today, you can get a hold of us here at the parish office. You know how to get a hold of us. You can call us. Email is probably best right now because of schedules. I know the weather being nice out there really makes me want to take a little time off. So I'm actually going to here pretty soon. Not much. I'll be accessible. But Tracy, you'll also be accessible through phone calls.
I will. And please know that as more information is disseminated from the Archdiocese of Dubuque, and or from our incoming pastor, Father Ken Glazer, I will most definitely be sharing that with you.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any downtime or sitting on any new information or anything. It's going to get out there as quickly as I can physically get it out. I promise you this, because there are questions that I have that I don't have answers to. And I just have to be okay with that. So here I am with you guys. I'm in the trenches with you. And we're all in this together, so let's all work together to make this as smooth as possible. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Dan.